everybody. Seeing as Emma can't get her microphone to be functioning at this point in time, I'm going to introduce Nia and Dee to our session this evening on creativity in education. Over to you. Thank you, Nia.
Thanks, Lucy. And Hugh, I'm just going to ask you, were you at the conference in Eden in October at all? Did we meet there? No. So this is your first session. You're just on mute.
Sorry, I got on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Right. No, I wasn't at the conference. I was in the face-to-face meeting in Bodmin a month or so ago.
Okay.
But no, I wasn't at Eden.
No, that's fine. So it just helps me give me some context so that I wasn't going to repeat something that you might have already known. So really lovely to meet you. As Lucy said, I'm Nia Richards. I'm the director of CCE, and I'm here today with my colleague Dee. So we at CCE, we're a UK-based charity. We work internationally. Our goal is to transform education through creativity. And one of the big things that we're doing at the moment, and how we met Emma and Lucy and others, is through Leading for Creative Thinking. So for the past year, we've been going around the UK talking to people about creative leadership and how to, essentially our goal is to develop creative capabilities in children and young people. But we know you can't do that without creating cultures and conditions within schools for creativity. But also, you know, when you've got those conditions in place, it also means that you've got exceptional learning happening. And it comes back to leadership. And so it's not just really thinking about school leaders here, it's thinking about leadership across the board. And the work we've been doing around the UK is zooming out even further and looking at kind of the system leadership piece too. So what happens around schools to support them to do this work. So I'm just going to leave it there for a second. But the other thing I am going to do is if I can just share my screen a minute. So some of us met in September for the first session, and I'm just going to bring a couple of slides just so that I can recap what we did in that first session, and then we were in the Eden project then in October. So let me just jump to this slide, and hopefully you can see these well. So in September, we came together on a twilight session like this. And before even talking about creativity or creative leadership, one of the things we did was we posed the question, what is the purpose of school? And then we gave a time for the school leaders who were on the call to go into breakout rooms. And they used this kind of Diamond 9 format. You're probably familiar with it, but just a way of trying to kind of gauge, well, what is the most important things to be thinking about? And it was so fascinating because usually we wouldn't have been in the breakout room with people, but we were. And so we were able to see this happening real time. And what happened was what you can see now on the screen is the second iteration of it. The first iteration had that build knowledge, which is at the bottom. That was at the top to begin with. And we just sat back as facilitators and just allowed the conversation to flow and see what happened. And it was really interesting because the leaders started kind of questioning each other. You know, is knowledge a purpose of school, or is it the driver? You know, is it the outcome of what happens? And so they started agreeing, and that kind of moved down. And then in the end, what you can see is they ended up with developing a love of learning at the top. So then anyway, this opened the door for us to start thinking about, well, what does creativity mean in school? Sarah Childs, who isn't with us today from the Penryn College and Creativity Collaborative there, talked about her work of weaving creativity through school to really be the foundation for these kind of priorities. So developing a love of learning, etc. So this was our starting point. And then when we met at the Eden Project in October, we started thinking about, okay, well, what does this mean for leadership? And I always love showing this work by Cyrus Kaburu because he makes these glasses. And when he was interviewed once and asked about why doesn't he have lenses in the glasses, he said, I don't have glasses. I don't make glasses to see better. I make glasses to see differently. And this is the way we kind of define creative leadership. I mean, we've got a framework, the creative habits of mind. These are kind of day in, day out habits that we think everybody has. Sometimes we don't notice it, sometimes we don't value it. Everybody's got these. It's just a matter of recognizing it and recognizing what this means for leadership. And so again, in Eden, we started really thinking about the context then, Cornwall, and thinking about the issues that you have to contend with. That some of these are national issues, but there's obviously regional, contextual, and local issues that you have to deal with too. And we were thinking about, well, if you've got glasses to think, see, and do differently, how might you be able to approach some of these issues? And this isn't just, like I say, for one leader. This is about really developing other people in your learning organization, in your schools as well, to think, see, and do differently. So that creative habits model is our framework. It's our language at CCE that we use to define creativity. There are different models, and Penryn, Sarah's model at Penryn is slightly different here too. I'm going to stop there for a second. I'm just going to stop sharing. And I'm going to ask you if you've got a piece of paper and a pen handy, or pencil. Just a scrap piece of paper will do. If you've got a notebook or whatever, I'm going to ask you to do something for 3 minutes. And you might want to put your cameras off for this so that you can kind of just get into the zone. I'm going to ask you to draw, but don't panic, because it doesn't have to be a superior drawing. It can be stick figures. You can add words to it. No one's going to be judging your drawing here. And the thing I'd like you to draw for 3 minutes is draw a school leader. That's it. Draw a school leader. Okay. As I say, it can be simple. I'm going to stop speaking. I'll tell you when you've got 1 minute left, just so that you've got an awareness of time. I'll come back to you in 3 minutes. You've just got 1 minute left, everybody. Time's up, everybody. Okay, so if you could put your cameras back on. Okay, so I don't know. I'm going to assume that you don't all know each other. So I'm going to ask you one by one to just introduce yourself briefly and then show us your drawing and just talk to us about what you were thinking as you were drawing. Okay, just describe your picture to us. So who'd like to go first? Go on, Kate.
Right, so I'm Kate Little-Dyke, if you don't know me. I am currently the Consultant Executive Officer for CAPH, which is the secondary equivalent of CAPH. I used to be head teacher at Saltash, and I've been a school leader for many, many years. So art was not my subject. I was an English teacher. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
We can see
Okay.
it.
So my school leader is juggling lots of balls, which have all got question marks on them because they're all sort of thoughts or ideas or all of those things that you have to keep in the air. She's sort of female, but a bit androgynous, really. She's got big eyes because you have to look beyond the surface of things to understand what's going on around you. She's got big hands because you have to, you know, head, hands, and heart. She's got a big heart. Oh, can I just put it down and talk about it now?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Oh gosh, things are falling out of it.
Thanks, Kate.
I was trying to indicate the importance of, you know, hands for doing, eyes for seeing, heart for feeling, brain for thinking, and broad shoulders for carrying the weight of things so that other people don't have to shoulder the difficult stuff. You try and take it, as school leaders, you try and take it away from other people. So that's what I was trying to get in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Thank you for starting us off. Hugh, I'm going to come to you next because I think Emma's going to struggle, but she might be able to show a drawing in a second. Okay, second.
Yeah, no problem. And just like Kate, art is really not my strong point.
There's no judgment here. It's not about the drawing.
I'm a PE lad by trade, but I don't know. Ooh, where's my camera?
Hugh, just introduce yourself first, just in case people don't know you. So which school?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hugh Morgan. I'm head of school at North Cornwall Academy, which is part of the WAVE group. And we're an alternative provision. And in North Cornwall Academy, where we go from year 1 to year 11.
Ah, brilliant. Good. Thank you.
I'm not sure. Is that? Oh, can you
just bring it closer? We'll see it. We'll pick it up.
Oh, I don't know if it is.
No.
Oh, maybe we'll go back.
Bring it to
I'll tell you what. It's probably because I've got the blur on.
There we go. Yeah, we can see it.
Right, it's not a monster or a dinosaur. It's meant to be a swan.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, so sort of, you know, we get an analogy, I'm sure, sort of above the water. You need to have that sort of that public persona of sort of calm, controlled, knowledgeable, having a handle on everything, and then sort of underneath you're going 101 miles an hour. You've got 1,000,001 things in your mind. You've got people trying to pull you everywhere, imposter syndrome, and you know all of these type of things. You know, hectic. Am I doing the right things? Decisions and everything like that. So very much a sort of a two-part role. You know, what one looking internally with the possibly the panic, and one externally where you need to have that that again that calm and controlled exterior for your team. So that's what my.
Thank you, Hugh. Yeah, no, that was really good. Thank you. Emma, go on, share your drawing. So I can see a leader in the center, and there's lots of people around the outside. They're smaller people, so are they children or are they staff? Bit of both. Like a game. And there's a heart at the bottom, so leading with a heart. It's like a Christmas party game, isn't it? Emma, thank you for sharing. If there's any other notes you can put in the chat about anything that we haven't picked up from your drawing, it'd be good to know. It must be such hard work for you today. Me too.
It definitely has a note that said data and a pound sign to suggest juggling budget, and it's a community, and they were children at the bottom. Was anything I missed, Emma?
No. Okay. Well done. Thanks, Kate. Okay, so my question to you.
I haven't showed you mine.
Oh, sorry,
Very
Lucy.
quickly.
Go for it.
Can you see it?
Just bring it closer. It might be the background. Try putting it in front of your face, just because I think it's the background. There you go. Yeah.
So what mine was, well, it's actually an umbrella.
Oh, you've disappeared
But all the
Oh, there
different
you go.
elements,
Yeah.
all the different elements of the umbrella, whether it's leadership, passion, inclusion, inspiration, environment, were part of her skirt, and she has her head and her heart out the top, and everything sits under that level of her having to carry everything and protect everybody and the children underneath to create such a to create the right environment for the children to thrive.
Thank you, Lucy. And Dee, I'm just going to check in with you just to see if you did have a drawing. There we go. Just bring it closer. And just unmute yourself, Dee. Just tell us a bit about your drawing.
I worked on it as a hub, in that you're taking information and tasks in and pushing them out. So you're in the middle, spinning, holding it, and everything's coming in and you're putting it out. So I know mine's a bit more simple than everyone else's, but that's the way I see it, in the centre, coming in, going out.
Yeah.
With lots and lots of spokes.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to this question then about what do we notice about everybody's drawings, or what surprised you about everybody's drawings? What are the similarities? What are the differences?
Do you want us to put our hands up, or can we just jump in?
Just jump in. It's a small
Okay,
group.
I was
Yeah.
surprised and then slightly, not embarrassed, it's not the right word, but I was really interested to see people hadn't drawn a person, that they'd drawn some kind of metaphor for leadership. And I thought, that's because you're more creative than I am, because I am not a creative person, I don't think. So I thought that was really interesting, that already there are different mindsets sort of just in this group about how we see things.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that struck me, really.
Thanks, Kate. And I saw Emma has got outward facing versus internal load. Absolutely. And she's saying about yours, Kate, had huge metaphorical hands. So yeah. Anything else that we noticed?
I think fundamentally they were all, although they were done in completely different ways, what we were trying to get across was very, very similar. And you know, it looks like we did have a number of similarities across all our drawings, even though they were all very different drawings. But I think what we're trying to get across was broadly very similar.
Yeah. And I've got a question to you, because this is something I've noticed in those. I'm just going to ask you, like, I'm wondering who you had in mind when you were drawing. Like, did you have yourself in mind, or did you have this kind of model kind of leader role in mind? Just because I noticed some differences between, right, this is what we think a leader should be kind of head, heart and hands, and it's really compassionate. But then I noticed quite a difference actually with Hugh's, which was about actually that sense of feeling of tension, that feeling of panic. And I can absolutely relate to that, because I still feel fairly new into this role as a director, 2-3 years I think now. And you know, that sometimes that sense when people are looking at you for that leadership, their direction, and you know, outwardly you having to sort of give this sense of calm and, you know, trust, and on the inside it's actually feeling, oh, you know, underneath the water you're kind of paddling like mad. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think mine personally was probably based on myself and my experience. I'm quite a new person in the role, although I've been in the in the school for 6.5 years. I was vice principal, and then I became head of school, sorry, when the previous principal left at Easter quite suddenly. So going from one role to the other, and of course, as a vice principal, you've got an understanding of everything that's going on. But once you're sort of sat in this seat, so to speak, it is massively different. You know, you've got to have a thorough understanding of absolutely every element. You know, the HR, the primary literacy, the health and safety, the PSHE curriculum, etc., etc. You know, it just goes across everything. And I think because you've worked with staff for so long, you don't want to let you. I know you never want to let yourself down, but you don't want to lose what you've got with staff already. I don't know if I'm making sense here.
You're making perfect sense. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, and it's probably, you know, that because I was dropped into it quite quickly, just because of the circumstances. It was sort of sink or swim a little bit. And yeah, so that's what I was basing it on, really.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Hugh, because that is actually something we're just going to build on now, because I'm not going to ask you to do it, but if I asked you to draw again another leader, but this time a leader that's a creative leader, someone with creativity driving their leadership, what might that make you think about? What might that make you think differently about leadership? So I'm just putting that out there as a rhetorical question for the moment, because although Sarah Child isn't with us in person today, she's unfortunately in London, we talked about creatively how we could have her with us here. So she's recorded something for us. So I'm just going to share my screen again and hope this works and that we can hear Sarah virtually. I'm just going to take my headphones out because I think, let me just go to the side here. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm just not used to Teams. There we go. So let's see if this works. Sorry, can you not hear anything, Kate? Anybody else? You can hear something. No, Emma, you can hear.
I can hear.
Oh.
Ah,
I can hear.
Sorry, Kate. What I'm going to do though is after this session, I'll put this on our Padlet. So I know you can't hear it now, but I'll summarise at the end, and then it might be just something that you can listen to afterwards. I'll just finish this bit. Sorry, Kate, you missed some of that. Like I say, I'll share it afterwards so that you can catch up. But Sarah was talking us through ways that she uses this language. So this is, as I say, their creativity model, their framework, their shared language of how they talk about creativity. And her, in her role, seeing that, you know, this has to start with her, it has to start with her modeling this to staff. And so I'd asked her to just reflect on that for this session today and pick out some examples of how she's doing it. So let's take that question that Sarah has posed and think about how are you making creativity visible in your leadership? At this point, if we had a bigger group, I would put you in breakout rooms. I think we'll stick together because we're just a small group. The only thing we're sticking together is that sometimes people look at me as the facilitator to get the conversation going, but this is our time for you really to talk to each other and reflecting over, you might want to reflect over perhaps the last week, last month. What I want us to do at the moment is really help each and every one of you try and find a concrete example of where you have made creativity visible, and it might be in a very kind of small way. And like I say, for you at the moment, you may not realize that you've done it or that you do it. So I'm trying to put you in a place here where we're helping each other to try and find those examples. So it's an appreciative inquiry way of doing things, rather than coming at this and saying, right, we need to all be more creative leaders, let's do this and this in the week ahead. It's actually looking back to find those moments where you might have shown that you've taken a risk or that you're playing with ideas, you know, that I think, Hugh, you said it in that sometimes when you're a leader, people look at you to be really decisive, but sometimes we need to, in complexity, just play with ideas, play with decisions. And so how do you make that visible? I don't know how clearly you can see the language here on the screen of these. I might just go back maybe to this one, if you can see that. Dee, you've also, I know you've got a link to the Padlet. I wonder if you'd put that link in the chat too, because on that Padlet, you'll be able to see, if you can't see this writing really clearly, on the Padlet, you'll be able to see these frameworks, both this one and the Creative Habits of Mind language really clearly. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking and I'm just going to open the floor up to anyone who might want to come in here. And I'm going to suggest that you use that word might. You know, if you're not too sure, if you can't find straight away a concrete example, this is about just talking it out and seeing what comes up.
I could talk about how I'm trying to be more creative. So my job is to lead CAPH, so the Cornwall Association of Secondary Head Teachers, and I'm trying to enable a development of that organisation to make it more impactful. And we had a conference last week whereby it was an overnight conference, and the Thursday evening session was looking at how we could develop. And it was facilitated by Tom Sherrington, actually, because obviously he's a really good coach and he was there for our Friday session. But I found it difficult to encourage some of the leaders to think differently or to look at how things could be different, because they were quite entrenched in what they thought CAPH should be and weren't perhaps as open to change as I would have liked, or perhaps I hoped. So I could do with some tips really on helping the other leaders think creatively. Hence, I'd really like you to come to our conference later in March. But that's kind of, I've been trying to facilitate it, I guess, but without perhaps having the skills I need to be able to do that quite as effectively as I could.
You can see persistence on the
Yeah,
on the Penryn framework. It's also on ours too. Persistence is
yeah,
a big one. And you know, it sounds like you're in that situation, particularly being really persistent. And I suppose it's how do you make something like that visible to others? Because sometimes it's that those kind of nudges that you're trying to do, that kind of way that you're trying to shift people's perceptions. No, it's not like big change. These are kind of small incremental things, and the way you show up, and it's the way that, you know, you create cultures that and so this is where the visibility thing comes in. It's
I think
unless
you're
we're
right.
go on, Kate. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so I think what you said about modelling is really important. So there's never been an action plan for CAPH, and so I wrote one, and I can't say it was embraced, but it was at least considered. And I'm trying to model other things. So an idea that actually I magpied from Emma, which is using, you know, using CAPH as an organisation to try and get discounts from other services, and then working in partnership with, you know, preferred. And so that idea of us working as a group, as CAPH heads, rather than, because what happens at the moment is lots of heads, as you know, in Cornwall are in trusts, and so the big trusts have got a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of, you know, support. And then the maintained heads, there are 5 maintained heads and a few standalone academies, 3 standalone academies, and they really don't get in on deals because they haven't got that kind of family around them. So I'm hoping that, you know, I was suggesting about, you know, we could do this as a CAPH hub and we could do that as a CAPH hub, and I sort of modelled how that could work. And I think that, well, the feedback form suggests that that has had some interest at least. So I think what you say about modelling is really important to show what we could be, even if we're not that at the moment.
Yeah, and absolutely. As you're talking, Kate, I'm thinking this has got to be a blog for all your leaders. This is about a blog about how you are grappling with things and thinking about and making connections. Because again, it's the offers that you're giving to your leaders, it's the things that you do, but it's also, you know, the interest is in the way that you think and the way you're leading. So thinking about how that can be visible for others. And it's those kind of things that create that permission for others to start to question, well, what is leadership about? What is leadership about in 2025? What's school leadership about? What does it look like? Going back to those drawings that you came with in the beginning, you know, can we challenge ways of thinking about leadership and what it is? Emma, I can see that you put a comment in as well about you're trying to ensure that the concept of creative leadership is at the centre of professional learning conversations. And, you know, the connection with Kate and Hugh are examples of those. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, putting connection as one of the aims. Absolutely, Kate. Thank you. Anybody else want to come in here? All right, I've got a dog that keeps going in and out. That's why I'm being distracted. So I'm going to leave you to reflect for a moment. I'm also going to, I'm just going to show you one slide, and then I'm going to come back to you and think about if you've got any more reflections. So I'm going to come to here. So hopefully what you can see on the screen at the moment is a slide with 9 different conditions. So this is our good friend and colleague, Emerita Professor Louise Stoll, who has done a lot of work on creative leadership. And this is conditions for creative leaders to create cultures of creativity. And you can see at the top there, number 1 condition is modeling creativity and risk taking. And what we're saying here when we're saying conditions of creativity is, again, it's going back to this idea of, if you've got schools as learning organizations or any kind of organization who have a kind of culture of creativity. When we've got those conditions right, what tends to happen is people within those organizations start to take, they have that sense of permission. They start to take responsibility. Suddenly you haven't got one leader, you've got that sense of many leaders. You've got everybody contributing to the big picture. Those challenges that we pointed to, we talked about at the Eden Project, particularly the kind of entrenched challenges, complex issues that school leaders are now dealing with, particular local issues in Cornwall. Those can't be solved by any one kind of heroic leader. That has to be everybody really having this sense of creativity, because when we've got that creativity, it leads to kind of that innovative thinking differently. But because it's not the norm, we're not used to seeing it. And what we do tend to see, which is the norm, is the kind of classic, perhaps traditional ways of leading. So that swan gliding across the water looking really calm is like the kind of concept of leadership that is, yeah, everything is all good. But what would happen if that swan just really visibly showed that actually, you know, I'm struggling, or I'm thinking about an idea and I'm struggling with it. You know, if that was kind of vocalized, if that was shown to people in your organization, what would happen? So, you know, modeling creativity and risk taking can be really as simple and straightforward as perhaps narrating decision-making processes. I was thinking along these lines, but I came across this and I've rethought things, and saying that out loud, sharing it with people. It could also be sharing ideas in progress. So not always sharing those kind of polished decisions once those decisions have been stamped and sealed. It's actually, you know, as you're in that decision-making process, sharing half-formed thoughts and asking for feedback and saying, you know, to people, what do you think? Because doing this, because even though it sounds just, you know, really kind of very simple, but by doing it, it's kind of just giving indications. Sorry about the dog. It's giving indications to people that they've got permission. They've got permission as well to be struggling with decisions or struggling about ways of approaching something. It allows people to be uncertain. It allows people to be curious. And the other thing here too, around trying something small or experimental. So this might be something really tiny, like, you know, trying out a new meeting format or trying out a different kind of creative learning approach, like Emma and Kate have been talking about trying new ways of doing it, but actually then explicitly framing it to people as an experiment. We are trying this for a day, a week, a month, however long, time box it. We're going to try it. I don't know as a leader if it's going to work, but we're going to try it. We're going to sense check and we're going to come back together and see what happens. Hugh, I can see your hands up. Please come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it seems like it's very much what we always try and get the pupils about, that resilience, and it's okay to fail. Let's give it a go.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
and let's learn from it. It's that distributed leadership for me, and that delegation and that trust and giving people responsibility, and letting them run with it. Not just saying, I want you to take responsibility for this area and I want you to do it like this. No, I want you to take on this area and run with it. Let's see how we get on. And if we make mistakes, we make mistakes, and we make mistakes together and we learn together. So we have to model that. What I would think is we have to model failure as well. We don't always get it right. And if I say it to the students, all the time, I got that wrong, or I'm sorry. But it's about that. If we don't try things, we don't experiment in different ways, and become very, very much sort of align one way and miss out on a lot of things. So yeah, just from what you're saying, it seems to be very much about, let's not be afraid of failure, but let's embrace trying. And sometimes that sounds a little bit corny, but that's sometimes where the magic happens.
Absolutely.
And go from there.
And we've got to, I think it's just changing that mindset as well, because we are in a different world. Things, are really complex at the minute. So we can't be doing things the way we've always done it. And actually realizing for everybody, all colleagues in schools, that creative risk is professionalism. It's actually, today we can't just stand still, that we have to take these risks, but we don't do it alone. As you say, it's having that language of the we, not the I. We are going to try this together. Let's see what happens. And yeah, we're in it together. Exactly like you've said, we model it all the time in classrooms. It's the kind of stuff we say to children, but we've just got to really think now about how we do that culturally. As I say, not just in schools, but this is why it's so fantastic to work with CAPH. It's that kind of a whole ecosystem approach to who are the people around your school who are supporting you. How do they think? Because they too need to be thinking, seeing, doing differently, which is the way that we would kind of in shorthand terms talk about this kind of idea of creative leadership. Does anybody else want to come in with any just final thoughts? I think we've just got started with the discussion. We're just coming to an end. So I would say just in the next few weeks, I'm just going to ask you actually to put something in the chat. I'm going to challenge you with this one. So it might have been difficult to sort of think backwards and think, right, okay, last week, last month, how have I made my creativity visible? But here's an idea for you. Let's say in the next 5 days, how might you make your creativity visible? So is there, can you put into the chat, and I think Dee's going to share the sentence starter with you. So over the next 5 days, I will make my creative leadership visible by, what ideas have you got from today's discussion? So in the next 5 days, I will make my creative leadership visible by, what will you do? Just share this with you so that you can see. Oh. There we go. I don't know if you can see that really well. So how might you show that you're innovating in the next 5 days? How might you show that you're risk-taking? How might you show your persistence visibly to others? Have a think about that. If it doesn't come to you straight away, I know Dee has shared the Padlet with you. And so please add to that Padlet. So this sentence stem, add it to the Padlet. Or in the next week, if you suddenly have a eureka moment, you suddenly find that you are starting to make something within your creative leadership visible, add it to the Padlet, because we would love to hear about it. These are great examples to be able to share with people in the next session. I know we're over time, so I'm going to say thank you very much, everybody. On the Padlet, just really quickly, you'll see the activity from today. So if you want to take it and use it with colleagues back at school in your organisation, please do. That's what it's there for. But thank you for engaging today. Lovely to meet you.
Nia, thank you very much. And lovely to see you again. I think 15th of January is our next session, and of course the 18th of March is the CAPH conference, where we'll see you again, both presenting to the group and facilitating a roundtable discussion. So thank you so much for your time, and for you, Dee, as well. Lovely to see everybody. I'm just going to turn this one off now.